welcome back for yet another episode of Warriors Off-Road. So today we're going to explain about the 9-tooth sprocket that's available for your Hisun Sector or Strike 250. And we're going to put it on and show you how easy this is to get done. So let's take a little trip back into the mechanics lane and see what we can do for you. Alright, so one of the first things we need to do is remove the cover for the front countershaft sprocket. You can see by the side, it's just a nice little plastic cover here, and it keeps a lot of debris out and everything. So there's two bolts we need to take off. There's one right up here towards the top, and then there's one right towards the bottom. So let's get those off. Alright, so let's go ahead and get that side cover off here, and that'll give us access to the front sprocket. So we're just going to remove the bolt here in the bottom. Alright, set that off to the side. Let's get the top one off. All right. Okay, so now we got the cover off. All right. Now with the cover off, you can see now we got full access to the bolt right here. One of the things you want to notice is that this is held on by a little lock washer. When I mean lock washer, it means the washer has little teeth that fold in to the tabs on the nut to help keep the nut in place. Now there's a problem with the original one. It wasn't designed properly, so it really doesn't do anything to hold this in place. This nut has a tendency to come loose, and I've had many customers call me and ask me for a new nut because it had fallen off and their sprocket was coming off the shaft. So we sell a modified washer that does keep this nut locked in place. And I'll go over more of that details here in just a minute. So let's get started with just removing this part. What we got here is just a nut washer. So I want to line it up so it's easier to access, and I want to tap that washer away from the nut. There we go. And it looks like that's the only one holding it. I'm going to take a look around at all the others. Oh, there's one bent right there, so let's take a look. Let's get that one out of the way. Make sure we get our tool in there properly. There we go. All right, let's get our tool in there and get this done. Now we have for sale the special tool that's required to remove that nut. It actually fits in the sides like that, in those four little grooves, and then you can use an impact to take this off. If you have a wobble or a knuckle U-joint adapter on here, you usually get a 1/2-inch impact and you can pull it right off. If you don't, you can put a regular 1/2-inch ratchet on here, have somebody hold the brakes while the chain's still applied. That lets the chain act as a holding tool for the sprocket. So again, if you're going to use a ratchet, just have somebody step on the brakes. That'll prevent the axle from turning. If not, just use a 1/2-inch impact with an extension on here and a wobble tip similar to what I got right here. Alright, now let's see if we can get this off. If not, I'll have to use the there we go. We got it loose enough to come off. See that? Now, one of the things you're going to notice, this is the stock washer on the sprocket. See how that washer spins like that? That's not supposed to happen. That's supposed to be locked into the splines in the sprocket. That's what holds this washer in place, and then when you pin down the retaining tabs into the nut, that holds the nut from spinning. But this doesn't do it. So we modified the washers to make this work and fix that problem so you don't lose these nuts. Now let's continue and get this changed out. Now we have the new smaller sprocket in here, and it's got a little shelf on here, a ledge. So that part always faces the engine. Alright, so we're going to put it on just like that. So while the chain is still on here, I'm going to take this off, and then we are going to simply put this on the splines. There we go. Now with this new improved washer, you can see how it doesn't turn. It's locked on there. So when I go to tighten down the nut and use that tab on there, it's going to prevent it from coming loose, which is just the way it's supposed to be. So now we're going to put the nut back on here, hand tight for now. I'm holding down the washer. You'll notice that's a pretty tight fit with that chain, but it does fit. That's the smallest you can go on here and still use, you know, the chain on here, obviously. But the stock one is 11 tooth. This is a 9 tooth. It's definitely going to increase your acceleration off the line. Now, what you might do is it might end up losing 1 to 2 miles an hour in the very top end. But when you unlock the ECU, and these are doing between 40 and 50 miles an hour, that's a small price to pay for the torque that you can get off the line by using this. Now let's get this tightened and see what we can do. Now this one, again, you can go from the bottom, you can go from the top, whatever's easiest for you. And this one's going to show you using a knuckle on here. So now we have to adjust the chain. Back here is the bearing carrier. There's one on the left side here, and there's one over there on the right side. So in order to adjust the chain and bring it back, we need to loosen the bottom pivot bolt and the top pinch bolt. That allows this to rotate back and adjust the chain. So let's get started with that. That's pretty good. Alright, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. Now, one thing you might notice is that these adjusters are a little different than what you might have. Yours would have a bolt on here with a nut here and on the inside. These have been removed. This is our modified chain adjusters. But the concept is the same. We want to pull this back and adjust the chain. On mine, we simply tighten these down, and that brings it back to a tighter chain. And I'm going to do the equal spacing on both sides, right and left. Now typically with a stock setup, you can adjust the chain adjusters and you will have the proper amount of slack, just enough in it to not worry about anything. This has been modified a whole lot, and so what I need to do is I actually need to take a link out of this chain to make it fit right. So let me take a link out and we'll get started again. So if you need to remove a link out of the chain, you can see how much play I have in here. Locate the master link and remove it. Pull this off. If you need to, you might have to use a screwdriver here to get the link a little loose. There we go. Get it off there. Now it is an O-ring chain. So some of the higher quality O-rings, there might be an extra O-ring that you want to look out for. So we're going to take that off. I'm going to take them both off and just set it aside. Now we want to make sure we take about one link out and only one link. So that means I'm going to have to remove this right here to rejoin. That is considered one link when you got this and that, the male and female side of it. So I need to remove that piece right there, and then I can adjust the chain properly. And when you're done, the master link should look like this. You want to make sure on the rotation of the chain that the open part of the link faces that way and the closed part is behind it, so it will go like that. Alright, now it's time to get this chain adjusted properly, get rid of some of the slack out here. Alright, so again, I'm going to do each side evenly, and so I have the same amount of nut or bolt sticking out of the chain adjuster on both sides until I get the proper slack on here. I'll just go right side, left side until, again, both sides are even. And that's about the perfect amount of slack we want on here. Just like that. That's perfect. Now we can go ahead and button everything up. We're going to tighten down the pinch bolts on the chain adjusters for both sides and check this thing out. Double check that chain before I ship it all up. We are good to go. Now it's time for me to put that dust cover back on here. Is this mandatory? No, of course not. But it's nice to have it on there. Keep all the grease from the chain flying up onto the rest of the engine and wire harness. In here. All right, tight there. we are good to go. Alright my friends, well that is how you change the sprocket from 11 tooth down to a 9 tooth. Doesn't take very long. And we talked about the washer, where you can see where it just slides around here because it doesn't fit the splines on the sprocket with the splines on the back of this. So again, we modify them so it locks it in there. So when you put the nut on there and you lock the nut down and put that pinch on there, it actually will lock the nut down and do its job of trying to help it from coming loose. If you have any questions, give us a call, email us. Don't forget to enjoy our website at warriorsoffroad.com. And again, keep coming with the comments. Tell me what you want to see. I love doing the videos for you guys. I get calls 7 days a week from you folks who have had them for years and never had a problem. So the whole myth about these being garbage Chinese UTVs are it's just not true. Like anything else out there, let me know the day you've seen a bone stock UTV out in the desert with nothing on it except for what came off the showroom floor. Everybody modifies them. Why is that? Because they could all use some improvements. This not included. Everything on this one comes so well from the factory. It's just really good to go. And for the kids, they just tend to have a blast for years. So let's just modify it, update it, do some fun stuff to it, make the kids have a blast, get them involved in the off-road lifestyle, and let's go have some fun. All right, get out of here. Go riding.